As you can tell by the title, this is my story of both my labours and a sort of comparison. This is in collaboration with Chloelevi vlog. I'm going to try and leave a link on the screen here somewhere. I'm also going to leave a link in the description to her page and her video that she is doing in collab with me. So please go check her out. She is really down to earth. Like I really enjoy watching her vlog. She's a mum of 2 boys, Ted and Ralph, and she is living in London. What I like most about watching her is that she seems to like to talk. A lot of her vlogs are quite chatty, which I like. She sometimes says like in the vlogs that they are like just talking to the camera or like boring or whatever, but I don't find them boring. So I just want people to check her out and see if you guys like her as well, and if you do, please subscribe to her channel.
Mommy.
Okay, so let's get into the video itself. So I'm going to first describe my labour with Robin, then I'm going to describe my labour with Amber, and then I'm just going to go through the comparisons really quickly. With Robin, I was, for the end of my pregnancy, for a good few months, I was being watched for preeclampsia because I always had either high blood pressure or protein in my urine, but never both at the same time. I also had symptoms of preeclampsia. So at the end, I was diagnosed with preeclampsia the day before I was supposed to be induced due to being overdue anyway. And I was sent in the afternoon to be induced. I was given the pessary, so I had the pessary in and I went to sleep and had a little bit of cramping. They gave me some pain relief for it, and then I woke up the next day and everything was fine. So then because I was being induced and I was already overdue, my mum was coming over. My family are living in Ireland. My mum flew over and came to see me in the hospital, and so I was due to get, I think, another pessary at about 9 o'clock if the one that they had put in hadn't had an impact. And my mum came and visited. She arrived around 7ish, and Brett decided to go home, I think have a shower, have a nap and come back in. Yeah, so Brett went home to just get organised and either come back. I think he was planning on come back in the evening time. Brett had only left, it was about 7:30, and my waters just spontaneously broke, which was great because I didn't have to have them be broken. There was no pain because I was worried about that, because when I read about it, people were saying, oh, they felt a little bit of pain and then a pop and then water everywhere. Mine definitely was a lot of, like, it was unmistakably my water's breaking, and there was a lot of fluid and it went all over. Just sitting there talking to my mum, minding my own business, and then I just felt the warm fluid, and that was that. So I got myself cleaned up, and then the midwife said go for a walk, try and get the contractions going. So that's what we did. Yeah, so we always joke that Robin was waiting until my mum came, because it's such a funny coincidence that as soon as my mum arrived, pretty much, then my waters broke and things got going very quickly after that. So we went for a walk and walked down to the cafe, which was probably like 5 to 10 minute walk away. We got like a drink, and I remember I definitely got a brownie because I remember my mum, when we arrived there, I was starting to have contractions already, and they were getting quite bad and quite painful, and I had to pause. I couldn't talk through them. I had to pause and wait until they passed before I could talk again. So I really had to focus on the pain when they were happening. So yeah, they were pretty intense at that point. And it got to a point, my mum was like, oh, don't message Brett yet, don't message him, because let him have his rest first, because it's going to be a long night probably. and you know, I was really trying to hold off from messaging him, but when they were getting so intense, I was like, Mum, I think I'm going to need to message him because it takes a while to get in. Waited in the cafe until Brett arrived. By that point, my contractions were really bad. I probably took a bite or two out of that brownie. And my mum kept saying, oh, do you want your brownie? Do you want your brownie? I was like, I don't care about my brownie. I'm in so much pain. So when Brett arrived, we walked back to the ward and I just wanted to lay down in the bed and just relax and cope with the contractions. And my mum was timing them, which was great. Brett was supporting me and they were definitely quite close together, but they were pretty short. I think the reason that they were short was because the worst part of the pain was quite short. It was like 45 seconds long, but I was having pain before that, you know, and then it was dipping off after the 45 seconds. So I don't know whether you count that when you're timing or not, but we weren't counting that. So when we said to the midwives they're every like 2 to 3 minutes, 45 seconds long, the midwives were like, I don't think you're ready to go up to labour and delivery yet. The contractions are still a bit short. But my mum kept saying, no, I think she is ready, I think she is, and you know, convinced them to check. They didn't want to check me because of like risk of infection because my waters had already gone. But my mum convinced them to check me anyway, and that's when they were like, oh, okay, yeah. I think I was 5 centimeters, I'm not sure. They were like, yeah, you're ready to go up, we'll organise that for you now. And so then I was offered pethidine, and the way they described that to me was, you know, we'll give you pethidine, you're going to be still like having contractions and uncomfortable for the next few hours. If you take the pethidine, then by the time it'll make you sleepy, you can have a rest, and by the time you wake up, you'll be ready to go, basically. And I was like, oh, that sounds lovely. So of course I went for that. And the pethidine took effect quite quickly and wore off before I even got into the labour and delivery unit. So yeah, I was talking about pethidine, so that didn't last for me basically. And when I was on my way up to the labour and delivery unit, I was like, oh, thank God I got that pethidine, because if I didn't, I'd be in so much more pain right now, because I'm feeling the contractions, the pain's getting stronger obviously. And then the midwife or whoever turned around and was like, oh, it might be wearing off. And I was like, are you serious? I was like, okay, well, can I get some more? And they're like, no, we can't give you any more. And I was like, okay, cool. So pethidine, I don't know, time just kind of went a bit funny from then on. I was on the gas and air for pain relief. I didn't feel like it worked a whole lot, but I don't think I was really using it the way I should have been. And it got to the point where I was like, I feel like I need to push. And they were like, okay, we'll go for it. I was like, okay, yeah, sure. I started pushing and everything got really painful. I then asked for an epidural, and obviously it was too late by that point to get an epidural. So I just had to keep going. I was pushing for an hour and 20 minutes, and then Robin was born at just before 20 past 2 in the morning. And I had a minor tear, but I didn't need stitches, which is great. Right at the end, it was starting to get a bit panicky because Robin kind of was stuck. She was stuck in the birth canal. She wasn't like progressing, but it was my fault. I didn't realize it at the time, but my pushes weren't productive. So I was pushing, but they weren't really doing enough. I wasn't pushing for long enough. But when they turned around to me and they said, look, she's starting to get into distress, you're going to need to get her out. Like, you need to do this, you can do this. Because I kept saying, I can't do this, I can't do it, I'm too tired. Because I was exhausted by then. They were like, no, you have to. And then I did. You know, I just had to push on through. And sometimes you need somebody to be like, okay, she's in distress now, you need to do this now or never. But poor Robin then had like a really warped head pretty much she still has a warped head because of it. So they said at the time that I bled a little bit too much, and so they gave me fluids. They ran fluids for about 3 hours afterwards. When they finally took the drip out, I was able to go have a nice bath, which was so nice. My labour with Robin was so straightforward, so nice. Like, I looked back on it and thought, oh, that was really nice. Like, you know, not that I enjoyed it, because obviously you don't enjoy the pain, but it was, you know, as far as labours go, it wasn't very traumatic. It was good. Robin, and then Amber. Amber was a completely different story. One thing that really was like kind of similar was like the preeclampsia and how it came on and how it was like not typical. The first time it was atypical, and then the second time I feel like it was atypical as well, because I was showing symptoms of the preeclampsia before I got the high blood pressure and protein in my urine, but then when it did turn up properly, like it came all at once, and the blood pressure was kind of high, but the protein in my urine was like super high. That was like mainly what they were most concerned about, I think. So I went to see my midwife. You guys kind of know some of this anyway. I went to see my midwife the week previous to me going into the hospital, and I had protein in my urine. I think my blood pressure was reading okay at that point. So she made a follow-up appointment for the following week just to check my blood pressure and my urine again, just make sure that everything's all okay. So I went into that appointment expecting, you know, everything to be all okay. I still had protein in my urine, and I think my blood pressure was very, very slightly raised, like very slightly. My midwife was like, right, so I'm gonna ring up the unit and you're gonna go in and they're gonna keep an eye on your blood pressure and everything, and they may have to induce you. They were watching my blood pressure and watching the baby and stuff, like doing the initial checks before they do an induction. Her heart rate was going a bit funny like the whole time. So it would go down to normal and then it would start getting really erratic. Babies' heart rates are erratic, but this is obviously to an abnormal extent, I guess. So they weren't comfortable with going the slow process. So the slow process would have been pessary, wait, see what happens, maybe do another pessary, wait, see what happens, and then breaking my waters. But they just skipped ahead and went straight to breaking my waters because of Amber's heart rate. So they brought me up, they kept an eye on baby, they broke my waters for me. I mean, you know all that because that was in my labour vlog. I'm going to put a link to that there now, up here somewhere. After they broke my water, it wasn't progressing, so they put me on the I don't know how to pronounce it, the drip that makes you have like quite intense contractions. So I was on that for a while, and they really do make you have pretty bad contractions, because I was able to cope with the contractions that I was having when I was pregnant with Robin. Of course they were painful, but I was able to cope. With the ones that I was having on the drip, they were just a little bit more intense, I feel. So anyway, I was like, oh, okay, I want the epidural. And Brett was like, oh, I don't know, there's so many like risks and stuff. And I was like, yeah, but you're not the one who has to do this. And he was like, no, that's fair enough, but there is a lot of risks, and you did this before, you can do it again. So we kind of then came to a decision. We were like, okay, well, let's check how far along I am, how dilated I am, and if I'm close, then we'll just keep going and see what happens. But if I'm not close, then I want the epidural, because I've been going through this for a good few hours now and I'm really uncomfortable. So that was kind of the decision we came to. And then when she checked me, I was only 4 centimeters dilated, and this has been a good few hours now, and I was just like, no, I'm done. And even Brett was like, okay, fine, yeah, get the epidural, because, you know, you've still got a long way to go. I got the epidural put in, and that was great. I didn't feel anything. I don't think I even really felt tightenings or anything. It was great. But then because I wasn't feeling any pain or anything, I felt hunger. I was hungry, and it was long and boring. As awful as that sounds, it was. And my progression was just very, very slow. And I don't know whether the epidural had somewhat to do with that, or whether the fact that I didn't have the pessary, or the fact that I was like, I wasn't overdue this time, I was early. There was probably a lot of factors that played into just how long it took to progress. So because it took so long to progress, it got to a point where there was too much risk with infection because they had broke my waters already, that they were like, right, okay, we're gonna have to think about a C-section. They started coming in, explaining the whole C-section and everything. They took me off to the theatre, and when we got in there, everything was nice and calm and relaxed and everything. It was, you know, I mean, I wasn't calm, but everybody else around me was very calm and relaxed. Brett was clearly anxious, but he's very good at hiding that. But I was super anxious. I was like, I mean, I was emotional. I was pregnant, I was tired, I was in labour, you know, and then I was just told suddenly that I'm going to have a C-section and be cut open. And the thing that I think that I was most scared about was the fact that they told me that I would feel it, but it wouldn't be painful. And I was really, really creeped out by that. Like, I was like, how can I feel it and not feel pain? Like, what if I do feel pain? Like, you know, it just really like bothered me. When we got into the theatre, that's when Amber's heart rate started going crazy then, and it got a bit panicked to get her out quicker than they expected, so I had to do it very quickly. Say hi to the camera. Hello. So Robin's gone to bed, so I'm sorry, but I feel like I should be a little bit quieter. Yeah, so it took them 54 or something like that seconds to get her out, aside from obviously the prep, and I think it was 20 minutes prep time, and then 30 minutes afterwards they were like, you know, doing the after stuff, like stitching me back up and all that jazz, whatever it's involved in that. This time round with the Amber, I lost a lot more blood. I lost, I think it was a litre of blood as opposed to 500 millilitres with Robin. And so I had to, they were able to do this thing where they collected up the blood that I lost and put it through a filter and gave it back to me, so that's really cool. So they did that. So I spent, I think when they were giving me the blood back, it took, I think it was half an hour I was only on the drip for, and I was taken off to a separate area for that. And then I was brought down to the actual ward, but I think the ward that I was on was specifically for people who had had a C-section, because everyone I was there with had a C-section too, and they were able to accommodate for partners to stay overnight, whereas normally the partners only stay overnight while you're in labour. After that they have to go home at like 10 o'clock or something. I have to say, if we do have another child, we're not really sure on what the plan is for having another child yet, but if we do, obviously there'll be the option for me to go for either a VBAC or just an elective C-section, and I'm really unsure on what I would choose, because the C-section recovery is long and it's very painful, and when I just compared the two labours, I just was up and about and moving and, you know, free to do everything after Robin, and then after Amber I just was so unable, especially for the first week, you know, I just couldn't do anything, and very hard for me to cope with that. I don't like having to sit down and not do anything. And then even when I was starting to feel a lot better and a lot more able, I ended up pushing myself too much and I started to be really unwell as well. So I feel like if I can choose to go for the VBAC, I think I probably will. So the differences are just crazy. And then I lost a fair bit of blood, had a C-section, and just everything about the two of them is so different. No pregnancy is the same and no labour is the same. And that's another piece of advice that I really would like to give somebody who, say, hasn't had a baby yet, is going to be having a baby, trying to prepare themselves, I guess. Like, that's what I would be watching these videos for, is preparing myself for the idea of labour. And well, I just want to say, like, you can prepare as much as you want, but don't have high expectations of your labour. Things don't ever go to plan. You can only plan as much as you can, but you also have to, like, relinquish control of that too. Like, you cannot be controlling over that, because then you are setting yourself up for problems in the future, because that's a huge portion of postnatal depression actually can stem from having high expectations of your labour. Like, you allow yourself to be prepared for it to not work out and you having to go to the hospital or whatever, or you know, if you're like, oh, I definitely don't want to take any pain relief, you might be in the moment and need the pain relief, and that's okay. It's okay to want the pain relief. Hi guys, so I'm editing this video now, and I realised I never filmed the end to it or said goodbye to you guys or anything, so it was just abrupt ending, so sorry about that. If you liked this video, please like on it, comment your experiences, your labour experiences, if there's any similarities or differences to what I experienced, you know, if you have tried pethidine or the gas and air or anything like that. And please go check out Chloelevi. Her link will be in the description below, and I think I linked her through the video. Try and link her again. So yeah, go check her out, because she's good to watch. Her latest video is very good actually. She's quite funny, but not in the like I'm trying to be funny way, just in she's just obviously just a funny person. So shut up. Yeah, so see you in the next video. Bye.